Hello, my name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software. I want to talk to you about a different aspect of the GDPR today. Now, the General Data Protection Regulation is in effect already, and enforcement starts in May. And so, if you haven't already started addressing this thing, you may want to. And one of the first things that you may want to do is what is called, and I'm going to read occasionally from the screen so I get this right, because if I'm going to give you good information, I want to give you good information. And one of the things you may want to do is perform a data protection impact assessment. Aha! The data protection impact assessment is a process whereby you examine your data processing mechanisms from the point of view of your client, of your customer, of the person whose data it is that you are collecting. And you need to do this assessment in such a way to ensure that you are appropriately putting protections in place for their data, that you have a firewall in front of your database, to say the least, right? That you've got appropriate levels of security, that you've got protection in place for your client's data, for your client, not for you, for them. And it's all about them, their point of view, and their data and their assessment. So you need to go through this process of defining this thing. Now, it's defined, and it says, it's Article 35, talks about when this is required. And so where a type of processing in particular using new technologies and taking into account the nature, scope, context, and purpose of the processing, it is likely to result in a high risk to the rights and freedoms of natural persons. The controller, that's you, the person who owns the data, not the person who processes it, right? So if, well, let's say that you've got everything on AWS and you're going, well, that's Amazon's problem. Nope, you own that information. It's on you, not on Amazon. The controller shall, prior to processing, carry out an assessment of the impact of the envisioned processing operations on the protection of personal data. New technology. Well, screw it. We'll just stay on 2005. Everything will be fine. Well, no, no. You need to have at least one impact assessment now, right? You've got to do an impact assessment now. You've got to make sure that you've got proper protections in place. But you need to do impact assessments every time you introduce new technology. Now, yes, that could be, and if you're on 2005, please upgrade. It's current year, right? Quote my kids. But if you're upgrading your SQL Server, yes, that should entail an impact assessment, but it's more than that. If you add new technologies, if you add machine learning, or you add in fingerprint readers, I don't know. I mean, if you add new technologies to your data processing mechanisms, you have to reevaluate your protection. You have to go through yet another DPIA to ensure that you've got the protection in place to protect your client, your customer, the natural person, to protect their information. If you have not done that, you must. Now, it does get into definitions of exactly what is the DPIA, and it's actually kind of weird because you define your own DPIA, which makes no sense really. But effectively, you're going to be following this. Article 35 does says, where necessary, the controller shall take out a review to assess if processing performed in accordance with the data protection impact assessment, at least when there is a change of the risk represented by the processing operations. Again, you're supposed to reevaluate your own DPIA on a regular basis. Now, there is a link to some DPIA guidelines. I'm going to put that down below into the description of this video, so you guys can get into that and take a look at what's necessary for a DPIA. This is added work. This is stuff you're going to have to go through. It is a bit more C-level in the things that it talks about, but it's still fundamentally part of the thing. So you have to look at stuff like if you're doing evaluation scoring, including profiling, automated decision making, systematic monitoring of individuals, processing of sensitive data, shocking, the processing of data on a large scale. If you're matching or combining data sets, if you're processing data concerning vulnerable data subjects are youth and other stuff like that. let's see, if you're doing innovative new technological, if you're doing something new, right? If you're doing something fun, you actually have to do an assessment. And then when the processing data prevents data subjects from exercising their rights or using a contract or a service. In other words, we're going to be doing a lot of DPIAs on a regular basis, right? Because as we make changes to stuff, it's going to have to get audited and checked and validated through this DPIA process, which you define yourself. That part's still getting me kind of weirded out, but remember there will be guidelines linked down below. Take a look at those for details in how to make this work. That's it. My name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software.